Hey guys, welcome back to the No Fear Racing channel. So today we're going to be working on this old girl. This is my newest purchase. It's a 2014 Ram with the 5.7 liter and it has the infamous HEMI Tick. So more often than not on these trucks it's broken exhaust manifold bolts that are kind of giving you that little tick that you're hearing on cold starts and going through drive-thrus. Sometimes if it's bad enough you hear it all the time, usually when you have a couple broken ones. But I'll kind of show you what that shows like or sounds like on this thing today, and we'll get to tearing it apart and showing you how to fix it. So my truck has it on the driver's side. I've got a broken exhaust bolt in there. I'll give you guys kind of an idea what that sounds like. Now, a lot of times this will go away once it starts to warm up, but you kind of hear it right there, especially as it comes down in idle. Alright, in order to do this job, one of the things you're going to want to do is get this tire out of your way. It's going to make it a ton easier to get to all the bolts on this manifold. Some of them are kind of tucked down behind the shock tower, and it can be a little hard with this guy in the way when you're trying to get in there and move stuff around. So we're going to start there and take this guy off. Alright, now obviously I've already gone through the liberty of taking out the plastic fender liner that sits in here to kind of just show you guys a little bit easier. But this silver piece right here, that's our heat shield, and that cast iron piece right there behind it, that is our exhaust manifold. So that's what we're going to be taking out, and those little bolts, that one specifically right there, the stud for the heat shield is already broken, which is usually a good indicator on which bolt is going to be broken. So that's what we're going to be taking out today. As you can see, even once you have the tire out with that steering rack in there, specifically this driver side is not the easiest thing in the world to replace. You also got your dipstick tube right there that's in the way. Then on this particular model too, this one has air suspension, so we got to be careful and make sure we don't break any of these lines up here. So kind of show you too, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. Here, let me try and position this a little better. Yeah, you kind of see this bolt right here with how it's wiggling on that heat shield. That's usually a pretty good indication on these trucks that it's broken. Additionally too, a lot of times back up in this area, you'll be able to see kind of black traces of carbon where the truck has been leaking exhaust. This one definitely has it. Let me see if I can get you in here a little better. Come on, focus. Yeah, right in here, you kind of see that gasket is a little bit darker than the other areas. So that's a pretty good indication that's where our tick is coming from. So to start out, you're going to have these 4 bolts that are on your exhaust heat shield. One of them helps hold this dipstick down on the upper bracket. And when you're taking these off, you just want to be kind of as gentle as you really can be. There's not always a ton of finesse to it. Sometimes these bolts are real brittle from all the heat cycles over the year. Just kind of snap. So I like to try and use a quarter or a smaller 1/4 inch ratchet to get all these guys out, if it's feasible. Once I get this manifold out, I'll kind of be able to show you a little bit better where these 4 smaller bolts are. But they're going to be on your corners for the top part of this heat shield. And then I believe they're on the corners for the bottom side. Yeah, that one's actually broken too. So let's see if we get this guy on the bottom. Yeah, that feels a little bit more promising. I mean, as you can see too, I wasn't putting a ton of force into that first bolt that I went to go start undoing, and it just snapped that little stud. These bolts are only 10 millimeters, or these nuts. So it kind of gives you an idea on how much metal you're actually working with. Which this one might actually just be pulling out the whole exhaust bolt, which is always fun. Yeah, I think that's exactly, oops, sorry, knocking you guys around. I think that's exactly what's going on right now. So I'm gonna fight with this for a minute. I'll keep you guys paused. Once I get this heat shield out, I'll kind of show you some more of what's going on. All right, so this bolt that we have back here with our dipstick, the stud on it actually wasn't broken. It was the actual bolt going into the head. So we'll have to see. It kind of looks like that one might have broke off inside the head instead of flush with it or a little bit protruding. I'm hoping it's just flush with it, because then I can at least weld a nut onto it and get it out that way. I really don't want to have to use a drill and an extractor to try and get these things out. Now I'm messing around with this dipstick tube. I'm just going to kind of try and gently pull on this, get it out of the way enough to where hopefully I can sneak this heat shield out of here somehow. Because with this dipstick tube here and your steering, it is a rather tight fit. But thankfully this thing isn't super sturdy, and if we do bend it up, it's not the end of the world. It is pretty flexible, just like tin. Yep, there's that broken bolt. So you guys can see right here, it just snapped completely right there when I went to go turn on it with that little 1/4 inch ratchet. So, I mean, obviously you're going to want to be as gentle with this as you can, but with it being such a tight area, you're going to have to kind of bend it and force it to go in directions that it does not want to. Let's see here. now you can kind of see that's our heat shield right there. This is the bolt from the top right corner. We'll have to nip this guy off with like an angle grinder or a die grinder or something in order to reuse this. Yeah, it's tight fit, trying to get it out, but it's definitely doable. Just gotta massage this metal a little bit. I mean, you can see it's pretty soft stuff. Yeah, so as you can see right there, there's one broken bolt. I believe the one below it down in here is broken, and then we have that one right there that's broken as well. So far tally's 3, but in the meantime I am going to soak these guys with some PB Blaster just to try and make it a little bit easier on me. Hopefully we don't have to extract more than 3. I think there's 8 of them total, maybe 9. So hopefully we can keep it at a minimum. Alright, so I've hit as many of these bolts as I can with penetrating oil, and in the meantime I'm going to try and get these 2 bolts on this flange for the exhaust undone. They're both going to be 14 millimeters, and it is a little tricky to get to that top one especially, but right now I'm just hitting the bottom with a 3/8 ratchet. And if you've got the time, you're going to want to give these guys a good soak with penetrating oil too, especially if you have an older truck or higher mileage truck. Let's see, I might be able to get that guy out. And the way that this exhaust pipe bends, at least for the bottom, if you go too crazy with getting that bolt out, what'll end up happening is your ratchet will bottom out on the exhaust pipe. So you want to get it broke loose if you can, and then just get it out. That, or you can always throw a box wrench on it, but that takes quite a bit of time, which we might end up actually having to use one for this top bolt. So I might be able to get at it from underneath. Alrighty. two guys out, and now that we have those guys out, oh, dead flashlight. Yeah, now that we have those two guys out, we can work on getting the rest of these bolts out on this exhaust manifold and hopefully finagle that thing out. Alrighty. Just as I suspected, I believe the outside bolts on these are a little bigger. I think they're a 13 mil, while the inside ones are 10s. Let's see here. Yep, definitely 10. Got that guy out nice and clean. Well, at least almost all the way out. There we go. Yep, there's one. Ooh, this one is tight. Sweet, hit the ground. So I don't know how well you can see it, but what I'm going after is that guy right there. Oh, yeah. I have a feeling this guy is probably going to snap. Oh, man. Oh, there's a little movement. Hopefully it's good movement. Just kind of try and slowly work this guy out. Try to be careful of this airline right here. Oh man. Oh, I think I got. Haha. Alright, sweet. As of right now, this thing is moving along. Bam, another one out. And for the meantime, I'm going to set you guys off to the side, because these bottom ones, you really can't see much of what's going on with them from where you're at anyway. And I'm going to need all the room I can get to try and break them loose. Alright, so this is where I'm at with things. I kind of have the exhaust manifold tucked over here. I think the only way I'm going to get it out is if I drop pretty much the whole Y-pipe cat and exhaust system. As you can see, it would be nice to fit it in that little slot right there, but with the steering linkage in the way, unless you're able to bend that exhaust manifold, there's no way it's going out the bottom. And thankfully, Dodge in all their infinite wisdom put the AC compressor and the hard lines right there, so there's no way it's going out the front. And then you also have this hard line right here, which I believe is an evap line, the dipstick, brake booster, and the cylinder head. So there's no way it's coming out of the top. So what I've done for the time being is just scooted it over so I can work on this one broken exhaust stud. I've got a extractor that just goes on the end of the broken bolt right there. And I am just slowly working that guy out. All right. So this guy's loose enough now, I might be able to just get my 1/4 inch ratchet on it. Ow. See here. Yep. As you can see, when they're poking out like this, it's not too big of a deal. The side that's really going to be a problem is that cylinder towards the front. That sucker is broke pretty much flat off. So pretty much our two options for getting that guy out are either welding a nut on it or drilling into it and using a different style extractor to get that bolt out. Yeah, you can see a little bit better now what I was talking about, that dark spot right there. You know, that's where all the carbon and exhaust gases are getting out of the cylinder because of that broken bolt. That's what's causing your ticking noise. Additionally, you've got the same thing going on with that front cylinder all the way to the left. Alright, got one out, and we'll probably just try and get this whole exhaust manifold shimmied over and then work on that cylinder right there with that bolt. Try and get a nut welded on it. Alright, so this is the current game plan. I've got a bolt ran there, there's my ground cable, and then that guy right there we're going to try and put a little bead on. And then I have this 14mm nut that I am going to at least attempt to try and weld on. The idea is just reach on through this side right here. Oh, come on, focus. Reach on through this side here and get that sucker lined up right there. Get it nice and hot, burned on, and then wrench it off as fast as possible. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and get you guys set up on the tripod in a spot where you can hopefully see this shot. Should be pretty good footage. Sorry, I definitely knocked you guys over there. It's a real tight area and you're pretty much right where my elbow needs to be. But we got a small bead up on that nut. Ow. A small bead up on that nut, or on that bolt, and try and get the actual nut welded on here. It's kind of a tight area. I'm trying to get my welding hood on, but it ain't working too well. See what I can do right here. Alright. Alright, we've got that sucker on there pretty good. Gonna try and wrench her off now. Come on. Yeah, I think I am getting somewhere. It is turning for me. I have to see if that's my welds just breaking or actual bolt spinning. I think it's the bolt spinning. Oh, come on. Yeah, that's the actual stud coming out. show you guys what I'm seeing in here. Come on now. Yep. Alright. You guys get the idea. I'm gonna keep trying to tear that thing out of there, and I'll keep you posted. Alright, and as you can see there, got that sucker out. And now it's time to start putting some of the new stuff in. So this is our exhaust gasket. These are pretty much how your bolts are gonna go. You're gonna have 2 per cylinder. This one, because of where that flange sits right there, goes right here. You know, start getting this in, and I'll kind of show you what we're working with. Alright, so much like before, we're going to have to kind of try and sneak this guy in some way, somehow. You want to be careful too, these edges on these exhaust manifold gaskets, and then even the head gasket in there, are razor sharp. So see, maybe I can, yeah, this way. That's looking promising. Yeah, ow, yep, see? Just got myself. There we go. Practically installed itself. Oh, come on now. Yep, just got myself again. Yeah, it's kind of one of these spots where, with as sharp as this darn thing is, it would be nice to wear gloves, but with how cramped it is, it'd be pretty counterproductive. Let's see what we can get with that. Probably gonna have to. Come on. Oh, well. Might help if I take the bolt out that I use for a ground. That's got quite a bit to do with the problems that I'm having. Oh, come on. come on. Bam. So something you'll kind of notice too, the top left corner, the top left corner on this exhaust manifold has a slot in it. So what you could do with that is you get your gasket mounted up, and then you get your bolt started with it, and then you can slide this whole exhaust manifold just right onto the stud, and then you're not fighting the entire manifold while you're trying to do this. Or I should say manifold and gasket. I mean, that's kind of the main thing with it, is you don't have to fight to keep this gasket lined up. And it helps support the manifold. Now you just want to get it started maybe like a couple turns. You don't want to do it too much, otherwise this won't work. And then just keep working your way around. You want to make sure these guys with the studs go on all four of the corners. That way once you get your heat shield back in there, you can put these nuts in the studs. And I apologize if my big head is in the shot. I'm just trying to move around to where I can get it. Which, I mean, a lot of this stuff that I'm doing by feel. So there's not really a whole lot of seeing what you're doing with how tight this area is. Sometimes it kind of helps to wiggle this manifold around a little bit, try and get the bolt holes lined up. It's not always the easiest thing in the world. You might have to tighten some of these bolts up, loosen some of them. Now that I've got all these bolts in hand tight, you go through, get them all snugged up. Something you're going to want to do when you're tightening up these manifold bolts is start on the inside and work your way out. And try and alternate from the top and the bottom. That way you can get them torqued down equally and give your gasket the best chance of sealing up properly. One thing I might add, the two bolts that connect your exhaust pipe that has your catalytic converter, I still have those off. If you have that hooked up or even just loosely hooked up, you're just going to fight it the whole time. You want to get all these exhaust bolts snugged up and tightened up first on the manifold side, and then you can move on to finishing up your exhaust pipe. If I didn't mention it before, the four middle ones are going to be 10 millimeters, and then the four outside ones are going to be 13, and then the nuts for your heat shield are all 10 millimeter. You want to get these suckers tight, but obviously, as you guys saw, just from heating up and cooling down and expanding and contracting, these bolts break from that. So you don't want to go crazy tight with them, but you do want to get them tight enough to where they're going to squish that gasket down and make a good seal. And I'm still just using my 1/4 inch ratchet to tighten all these down. All right. Alright, now that we've got all of our manifold bolts tightened up, I'm going to go ahead and put these square jam nuts, or whatever you want to call them, back on the ears of this manifold, and we will get our old bolts lined up in the flange and tighten up those suckers. Then when you go to snug these guys down, you don't want to just ramrod one straight in. You want to kind of torque them evenly. Otherwise your clamp here will end up all cockeyed. Where these threads are sticking out, you want to have pretty close to the same amount of thread poking through on each side. I just like to get them hand tight and go back through with my ratchet and finish them off. try and get some more turns out of that top one. It's really hard to get to with how much space there is. Buck wrench. And see, that one's pretty good and tight. Alright, now that we've got that all in, we can work on getting our heat shield in, which, if you remember from earlier in the video, we still have that little stud right there we're going to have to chop out, so I'll take you over to the vise and get that guy cut out of there. Alright, so we got our heat shield all mounted up here. Just going to nip this guy off. We're going to get as close to the heat shield as we can. At the same time, we're trying not to get into it too much so we don't chop off this whole ear. If you end up cutting it up a little bit, it's just sheet metal, it's going to be alright. You can bend it back and kind of get it back to where it's on that stud, and this nut's got a nice flare on it. But always remember, wear some safety glasses when you're doing stuff like this, because you can't hear titties, so. I think that went just about as perfect as it could. Still got our nice factory hole there. Don't have to mess with anything. Alright, let's get this thing thrown back in the truck. Something to consider too before you get too far along with putting everything back together on this. Start this thing up before you get that heat shield back in, and before you get that fender liner back in. Make sure you don't have any leaks or anything that you need to try and tighten back down that you're going to have to take that stuff out a second time for. So we're going to start this thing up now and see what it sounds like. Hopefully, fingers crossed, took care of the problem. No, it's not going to let me do the remote start. Makes a world of a difference when that thing's not ticking away.